Schools in Australia. Schools in Australia are famous all over the world, particularly for their systems and methods of education. Many are experimental schools similar to those currently functioning in Europe, with the exception of a major space to permit students to express, relax, and liberate themselves from any inhibition caused by the frenetic way of living. The school is an institution rigidly controlled by the state. The education department works in collaboration with the universities. The curriculum and the program of study are decided by a group of professors deliberately appointed. Examinations are effectuated during the scholastic year. Oral exams do not exist. Students remain anonymous and are identified by numbers. In Australian schools, private and public, students wear uniforms representing the symbol or emblem of their school. The administrators and prefects, elected by a group of students, are severe. The uniform must be perfect, and minimum details are inspected at daily controls. Students who do not follow the regulations are punished. Forced equality in uniforms does not reflect upon their personalities, and generally Australian students are less superficial than the European ones. In Australia, the scholastic timetable is rather long. Let's now describe a typical Australian school day. Students must be present in the class by 8:30 a.m. In general, one starts with a religious prayer. Immediately after, the students attend to their lessons, which last approximately 45 minutes. It is usual to receive 8 lessons quotidianly. An interval of 10 minutes divides the lessons. A refreshment break of an hour permits the students to participate in sport, recreational activities, or group reunions. Most schools have an independent restaurant. The mothers of students spontaneously offer their services to prepare food which is given directly to students. Infants' instruction commences at the age of 3 in kindergarten. The inculcation of the alphabet and multiplication tables commences at a tender age. The preliminary lessons are similar in every school. In secondary schools there is a variety of subjects, and students at the beginning of the scholastic year choose their course of study that will prepare them for their future vocation. Single professors or instructors impart specific lessons. Students move, for example, from the science laboratory to the social studies class, to the gymnasium, etc. Physical education is obligatory in Australia. Sport lessons are effectuated quotidianly, and a medical certificate must be presented by the student who refuses to participate. Inter-school sport activity is competitive, and annually a competition is organized. Trophies and medals collected are greatly admired. All types of sport are practiced, and the standard is usually excellent. It is natural for an Australian to be sporty, as from infancy sport has been practiced as regularly as a lesson of geography. The majority of Australian schools possess an efficient library, places to study music and acting. Australians must complete their education in 12 years, and they usually continue their studies in university. In this case, the Australian government offers frequent possibilities to study gratis in recognition of excellent results attained during the period of the final scholastic year.
John and Elizabeth in London. John and Elizabeth are departing for London. The airplane is modern and efficient. The airline personnel is nice and attractive. The flight is simple. There are no complications. John and Elizabeth are landing at England's primary international airport, Heathrow. At the airport, they complete the customs and immigration formalities rapidly. A London taxi, one of the many parked in front of the terminal, transports them to the centre of London. London taxis are famous because they are rapid and spacious. Now our tourists have arrived at their London hotel. The hotel is in Kensington, a modern residential area. John and Elizabeth are completely satisfied with the hotel's tranquil atmosphere and efficient service. They immediately commence an organized excursion of London with a guided bus that introduces them to the most interesting zones and constructions. The guide is extremely intelligent. She describes the history, remote and recent, in an interesting monologue. The tourists frequently interrupt her to ask questions. Naturally, she is capable of responding in every case. After an interval at a local pub, a typical English bar furnished primarily with various types of beer, the group continues the tour. Having finished the excursion, John and Elizabeth return to the hotel. The constructions and areas visited were extremely interesting to John and Elizabeth, and they wish to see more. First, they visit a famous art gallery. The art collection comprehends famous sculptures. John and Elizabeth appreciate culture. Subsequently, they go to the National Museum. It is vast and contains art and anthropological objects coming from India, Egypt, Greece, Italy, and other localities. The opportunity to observe diverse art collections in a limited period of time is rare. The British National Museum is unique. Therefore, it has been an extraordinary experience for John and Elizabeth during their London vacation. John and Elizabeth are also interested in theatre. They are now attending a famous drama by Shakespeare. In London, it is possible to attend professional spectacles of classic and modern theatre, of dramas, comedies, and operas. Obviously, John and Elizabeth have observed the usual English custom of evening tea. John is positive that tea is beneficial, but Elizabeth considers coffee more stimulating. The vacation is finished, and John and Elizabeth depart. An airplane transports them back to Italy. In Italy, John describes his vacation to his colleagues, and Elizabeth tells her relatives of her experience. The photos are very important as interesting facts have been recorded in London.
China. China is the most extensive nation in Asia. No other nation has as numerous a population. Ancient China was one of the primordial centers of human communities, and its history dates back 4,000 years. Despite this incredible period of historical continuity, present China's institutions are experiencing radical alterations as a result of the communist government. The capital of communist China is Peking. The densest city is Shanghai. The Chinese population is extremely industrious, tranquil, and peace-loving. The Chinese are famous for their traditional hospitality and profound sense of filial respect and family cult. Chinese culture has profoundly influenced adjacent Asian nations, including Japan, which has extensively used and adopted the aspects of art, religion, literature, and linguistic system of China. China became a republic in 1912, when a revolution initiated by Sun Yat-sen eliminated the final Chinese dynasty, totally eliminating millennia of feudal traditions and institutions and substituting them with modern democratic principles was not a simple matter. Therefore, this republic was confused and unstable. The Second World War intensified the existing problems incredibly. In fact, China had to face the Japanese occupation, particularly of northern regions, and suffered an internal division and a violent civil conflict between nationalists and communists. Eventually, in 1949 to be precise, the communists achieved total control of China, with the exception of an island named Formosa. China is an enormous nation that occupies 1/5 of the Asian continent. It is physically isolated and separated by enormous mountains and deserts from the rest of Asia. Its surface is generally mountainous and irregular, but there are two level zones. In the north, there is an extremely fertile valley, and in central China, there is another important agricultural region. The nation is divided into 24 provinces and 4 autonomous regions. 80% of the population is rural, 20% is urban. Agriculture is the basis of the economy of this nation, although industry is fundamental in the process of China's modernization. It produces considerable quantities of manufactured materials, particularly textiles. China has relatively abundant natural resources, including minerals. Its population is extremely unified through common traditions, although an incredible variety of distinct ethnic groups exists.
Electric current. Electric current is the passage of electricity along a metal wire or similar electrical conductor determined by the movement of electrons, which are minute particles revolving around the center of atoms. These possess a negative charge of electricity and are attracted to material with a positive charge. The rest of the atom, the nucleus, has a positive charge. When positive and negative charges of an atom are equal, the atom is neutral. If some force disturbs the equilibrium of the atom, the electron will move toward another atom. According to traditional mechanical theories, metals contain free electrons. The movement of these electrons, caused by an applied electric field, produces an electric current. Modern physical theories indicate that this is only a part of the matter in question, and that moving electrons manifest wave characteristics. The force with which electricity is transported is termed electromotive force. Electricity moves at the enormous velocity of approximately 186,000 miles per second. Electrons move through a conductor with difficulty because their passage is partially blocked or impeded by a phenomenon similar to friction called electrical resistance. The electrical resistance of a conductor is measured in ohms. The electromotive force is measured in volts, and current is measured in amperes. Electric current is actually a form of energy. It is not intrinsically usable. To use electricity, it is necessary to transform it into another type of energy. In common electric appliances, such as toasters, it is converted into thermal energy. Frequently, voltage is applied to a motor and transformed into mechanical energy. There are two types of current: direct and alternating current. Direct current flows continuously in the same direction unless the circuit is disturbed or interrupted. The voltage can vary, but its direction is constant. When alternating current is transformed into direct current through the use of a rectifier, the resulting current is frequently pulsating. The voltage of direct current varies in pulses corresponding to the frequency of the alternating current. Direct current has various uses in electric motors and generators. In automobiles, direct current generators maintain the charge of the battery, which is essential for the radio and ignition system. In industries, direct current motors are used when operations requiring diverse velocities are requested. Direct current motors can be programmed to operate at a certain velocity and will continue to operate at that velocity automatically. Alternating current changes its direction at periodic intervals termed cycles. A cycle is one complete reversal of current. Commonly, a 60-cycle alternating current is used. The frequency of an alternating current is equal to the quantity of cycles obtained in a second. Alternating current is used more frequently than direct current. It is more convenient for domestic and industrial uses. An important quality of alternating current is the simplicity of transforming it into very high voltages.
A visit to the zoo. One tranquil day in September, Lawrence and Alexander decided to explore the zoo. In Rome, the zoo is situated in the Villa Borghese Park. The entrance is immediately adjacent to the park's vast gardens. A minimal entrance fee is obligatory. But considering the interesting spectacle, the cost of the entrance ticket is moderate. Alexander is particularly interested in lions. "Let's go and see the lions immediately," exclaimed Alexander. "All right, if you insist," responded Lawrence. Knowing that lions are ferocious, in their presence the spectators remained impressed. Instead, there was no possibility of harm or danger. In fact, the animals were in complete captivity. An adult visitor indicated to his son an official notice informing the public to observe the zoo regulations and not to irritate the animals. "Let's go where the elephants are," suggested Lawrence, "because I prefer them." Alexander agreed. "Elephants are grand, funny animals. They come from Africa," stated Lawrence, who considered himself an elephant expert. "Actually, some exist in Asia too," observed Alexander. "That's right," responded Lawrence in an intellectual tone. "In fact, I studied Indian elephants recently, and I know that they are capable of transporting an enormous quantity of various products for vast distances." "Now," Alexander said, "I wish to do something different." "What a good idea," Lawrence said. "I suggest something to drink, sandwiches and pizza." They went to the nearest bar to eat a delicate meal. Tea, pastry, and sandwiches were sufficient. "Let's return to the animals," Alexander suggested. What a strange coincidence! The animals were also having their meal. Then Lawrence and Alexander also observed reptiles, lizards, and giant giraffes. This experience was absolutely fascinating and educational. A zoo is a kind of museum or gallery, but in other terms it can be a scientific laboratory and an animal protection zone. For Alexander and Lawrence, it was primarily an opportunity to observe animals. It is virtually impossible to observe exotic animals in their natural surroundings. Certainly, it is not practical for two individuals like Alexander and Lawrence to explore Africa. This zoo is fantastic, but too extensive, they thought. In a moment, let's depart, as it is impossible to observe all the animal species in only one day, observed Alexander. An intelligent comment, Lawrence added. I consider this visit finished. We shall return in a week, in order to observe zebras, buffaloes, and marine animals. They departed satisfied.